Imagine this. You're scrolling through your bank app at 2 a.m., half asleep, half terrified, staring at numbers that feel like they control your life. Your paycheck lands, and before you can even feel rich for 5 minutes, poof, it's gone. Rent, groceries. Treat yourself. DoorDash orders that taste like regret. And yet, somehow, Jeff Bezos is out here building yachts longer than your street. Here's the punchline. The economy is not broken. You are. Because somewhere along the line, you stopped asking what money is for and started treating it like oxygen. You don't want money. You want what you think money can make people think about you. But spoiler alert, nobody cares about your new car. They're too busy worrying about their own payments. Today we're tearing apart one of the most important and confronting books about money ever written. The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel. Not how to make it, not how to invest it, but how to stop being emotionally stupid with it. Because if you don't learn to master your money's meaning, your money will master you. Morgan Housel isn't your typical finance bro. He's not here to sell you crypto or tell you to wake up at 4 a.m. to grind. He's a former financial columnist for The Motley Fool and The Wall Street Journal, and the best-selling author of The Psychology of Money, a book that quietly dismantled everything we thought we knew about wealth. His follow-up, The Art of Spending Money, isn't about spreadsheets or stocks. It's about psychology, envy, ego, social comparison, the invisible forces that decide how we use money once we have it. This video falls under the Fair Use Act. It's for educational purposes only. We're transforming the ideas in Housel's book into something new, brutally honest commentary on how you and I keep trading our happiness for validation, one Amazon package at a time. This isn't a summary, it's an intervention. Housel's message is simple. Money is a story. It's not about how much you earn, it's about the story you tell yourself about what it means. And most of us, we're telling the wrong damn story. The book starts with a simple truth, that spending money is less about math and more about emotion. It's not a science, it's an art. But here's the tragedy. Most people treat it like a contest. They buy things to prove they're winning, not realizing the scoreboard they're playing on doesn't even exist. So if you've ever wondered why people buy $20,000 couches they don't sit on, or luxury cars they can't afford to impress people they secretly hate, buckle up, because we're about to break down the art of spending money, one idea at a time, and expose how money went from being a tool to becoming a religion. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. The quest for enough, the hidden currency of a simple life. America right now feels like it's running on caffeine, credit cards, and quiet panic. Inflation slowed, but housing costs are still absurd. Groceries feel like luxury goods, and everyone's walking around pretending their "I'm fine" isn't code for "I'm one paycheck from collapse." We've built a culture where your value is measured in what you can show, not what you can stand. And that's why Morgan Housel's The Art of Spending Money hits like a punch in the wallet, because it reminds us that money isn't freedom if you're a prisoner to what other people think. Housel opens with a story about a woman who got LASIK surgery thinking clearer vision would make her life better. It did, physically, but emotionally she crashed. She expected beauty to earn love, intelligence to earn respect, and when nothing changed, she realized she'd fixed the wrong problem. That's the whole economy in one metaphor. We keep performing surgeries on our wallets, hoping it will heal our self-worth. It never does. Look around. A guy buys a $70,000 truck because he wants admiration, not cargo space. A couple bankrupts themselves chasing the zip code that proves they made it. The irony, the more expensive the purchase, the cheaper the reason. And yet, it all makes sense. That's Housel's point. All behavior makes sense with enough information. Every reckless swipe of a credit card is a coping mechanism wearing a Gucci belt. People don't spend for fun, they spend for closure. The broke kid who grew up invisible buys designer shoes so he's finally seen. The overworked banker burns half his bonus in one weekend because it's the only time he feels alive. We call it stupidity. It's actually biography. That's the hidden language of money. Every purchase tells a story you're too ashamed to say out loud. Housel says finance is taught like science, but lived like art. In a textbook, it's compound interest. In real life, it's envy, insecurity, and the desperate need to matter. The spreadsheet can tell you what you can afford, but it can't tell you what's enough. And enough is the word nobody uses anymore. It's unsexy, you can't flex it on Instagram, but enough is the real currency of a sane life. The truth? Money has two jobs: buy comfort or buy comparison. One will make you freer, the other will make you furious. Most people choose the second because they mistake applause for peace. We don't want wealth, we want witnesses. But chasing validation is like paying rent on an ego that keeps raising the price. Here's the thing about 2025's economy. Wages are crawling, debt is sprinting, and everyone's still trying to buy the version of themselves they wish they were. If you ever wondered why million-dollar earners still feel broke, it's because they're emotionally overdrawn. You can't deposit peace of mind into a checking account. So, what's the fix? Start by accepting that everyone's money story is different. Judging someone's spending is like judging their scars. You weren't there when they got them. That co-worker dropping $500 on sneakers might be healing a childhood where he never owned anything new. That neighbor who hoards every penny might have lived through a chapter where she had to choose between rent and food. Every irrational decision makes sense once you know the chapter it came from. Here's where the book becomes brutally honest. Money doesn't make you happy. Understanding yourself does. If you can't identify what you're actually trying to buy, respect, safety, love, relief, you'll keep spending until you run out of options. The art isn't in earning, it's in awareness. Because when you stop trying to buy meaning, you finally have enough to afford peace. And maybe that's the secret Housel's trying to teach without ever saying it directly. The goal isn't to get rich, it's to stop feeling poor. The richest people aren't the ones with the biggest accounts, they're the ones whose desires cost the least. They've stopped outsourcing happiness to stuff. They've realized freedom isn't a number, it's a mindset. Enough isn't a limitation, it's liberation. Favorite quote: spending money is more art than science. What brings one person joy may leave another feeling empty. Key takeaway: you don't need more money, you need fewer reasons to chase it. Once you understand what you're really trying to buy, you'll realize you already own the most valuable thing: the ability to stop. Attention is the new gold. Where you look, you spend. The richest resource in 2025 isn't oil, data, or even time. It's attention. Companies are no longer competing for your money first. They're competing for your mind. TikTok, politics, crypto, Amazon, even your grocery store loyalty app, all fighting for a slice of your mental bandwidth because they know one simple truth: where your attention goes, your money follows. Inflation cooled to about 3.1% this month, yet consumer debt just hit a record $1.4 trillion. So tell me, how are people still broke while making more than ever? Because we're not paying in dollars anymore. We're paying in distraction. The economy doesn't need your savings, it needs your scrolling. Every ad, every limited drop, every influencer haul is designed to keep you in a permanent state of almost satisfied. The modern economy runs on FOMO and caffeine, and we keep confusing stimulation with success. Housel said people don't really want money. They want respect, admiration, attention. We're not chasing wealth. We're chasing witnesses. That's why your neighbor's new Tesla feels like an attack on your dignity. It's not about transport, it's about hierarchy. You don't want what they have, you want the feeling they must have had when people looked at them. The world used to measure value in gold, now it measures it in views. And here's the cosmic joke. Attention is the new addiction, but it's also the new poverty. The poorer your focus, the easier you are to sell to. That's why even millionaires feel broke. They might have money, but they've lost the ability to feel content. They can buy everything except the silence to enjoy it. The happiest people I've met don't have the biggest incomes. They have the strongest filters. They know how to ignore nonsense. We talk about financial literacy, but what we need is attentional literacy. Knowing how to budget your focus is more important than budgeting your paycheck. Because if you can't decide what deserves your energy, someone else will monetize your confusion. Housel reminds us that what you pay attention to determines how rich or poor your life feels. It's not the zeros in your account, it's the peace between your thoughts. Think about how fast our desires inflate. You don't just want a new phone, you want the newest one. You don't want dinner, you want the restaurant everyone's tagging. You don't want a good life, you want one that photographs well. Every app you open recalibrates what enough means, and that's why happiness always feels one purchase away. The moment you get what you wanted, the algorithm teaches you to want something else. It's not economics, it's emotional engineering. And yet, there's always that one person you know who seems unbothered. Their car's 5 years old, their phone has a cracked screen, they don't post vacations, they live them. That's wealth. That's what Housel means when he says, happiness isn't about what you have, it's about what you stop wanting. The people who look richest online are often the most indebted offline, emotionally and financially. Here's the ugly truth. The attention economy has turned our insecurities into GDP. Your anxiety is someone else's profit margin, and as long as you keep equating validation with value, you'll never win. You'll keep paying for a version of yourself that's always just out of reach. Attention is expensive because it costs your peace first and your paycheck second. The happiest people understand this trap. They measure wealth in moments, not metrics. They're not allergic to ambition. They've just stopped outsourcing happiness to algorithms. Their joy isn't a reaction, it's a rebellion. They don't need to prove they're winning because they stopped playing. So maybe the goal isn't to earn more money, but to reclaim your focus. Because if you can't control your attention, your money's already spent. You're just waiting for the charge to hit your account. Favorite quote, you might think you want a nicer car or a bigger house, but what you really want is respect and admiration from other people. And you think having nice stuff will bring it. Key takeaway, where you spend your attention, you spend your life. The truly rich aren't the ones who have the most. They're the ones who've mastered the art of ignoring what doesn't matter. Invisible wealth, what you don't show is what you own. It's funny. Every time a new economic report drops, the numbers look better on paper, but worse in real life. Inflation's finally cooled below 3%, but housing prices have gone rogue. Consumer debt is higher than it's ever been, and somehow half the country still can't handle a $500 emergency. The headlines say, the economy is strong, but if you've talked to a normal person lately, you know it doesn't feel strong. It feels hollow, like someone's printing optimism in the same place they print money. That hollowness is what Morgan Housel writes about without using the word. He doesn't care about net worth, he cares about self-worth. And right now, self-worth is in a recession. You'd think by now we'd have learned that wealth isn't what people see, it's what they don't. But every day, millions of people wake up and decide that the best use of their money is to prove to strangers that they have it. And that, Housel says, is financial suicide in slow motion. He tells stories about billionaires who spend their lives hoarding things that don't matter, only to realize at the end that they traded joy for validation. He writes that happiness depends on so much more than income, and he's right. There are 13 divorces among the 10 richest men on the planet. Imagine being so successful that you can't even stay married to your own peace of mind. We don't see the parts of wealth that rot in private. We see the yachts, not the loneliness, the cars, not the panic attacks, the social media smiles, not the Xanax prescriptions. The part of money that actually matters is invisible. Security, independence, the ability to sleep without worrying about tomorrow. That's real wealth, and it never needs an audience. But we don't want that kind of wealth. We want the kind that gets claps. That's why the new American dream isn't owning a home, it's owning attention. You can't show off an emergency fund, but you can show off a kitchen renovation. You can't brag about peace of mind, but you can post about business class. The irony is cruel. The things that make you feel safe don't get likes, and the things that get likes rarely make you feel safe. It's like we're performing success instead of living it, and the performance costs more than the ticket. Look around. How many people are one job loss away from ruin, but still pretending they're thriving? We don't need more wealth. We need fewer witnesses. Housel's core point is that the most valuable financial asset isn't your income. It's your independence, the ability to stop caring about impressing anyone. He says the real luxury is waking up and realizing there's nothing left to prove. The older I get, the more I think that's true. Every expensive thing I've ever bought to impress someone eventually became just another object I didn't care about, and they didn't either. There's something freeing about not being noticed. The people truly winning aren't showing it. They don't have to. They know that trying to impress people is the most expensive addiction in the world, and the return on investment is embarrassment. Right now, the economy rewards loud people. Influencers with rented Lamborghinis, gurus selling mindset courses, CEOs live streaming their self-care routines. But quiet wealth, the kind that doesn't need applause, that's becoming rare. That's the wealth you build when you stop asking what others think and start asking what actually gives your life leverage. Because once you stop chasing the illusion of being admired, you start chasing the reality of being free. Real wealth isn't visible. It's not the watch, it's the time you control. It's not the house, it's the space to breathe. It's not the car, it's the calm you feel not caring who notices it. That's what money is supposed to buy. Not more things, but more you. The richest people I've met never looked rich. They had this strange calm about them. No rush to prove anything, no anxiety about losing anything. They could afford to be kind because they weren't afraid. They'd already won the only game that matters. Control over their own attention, their own time, their own peace. The tragic part is that most people will never know what that feels like because they're too busy trying to keep up with people who don't even like themselves. We're chasing a finish line that keeps moving, measuring happiness by who claps the loudest when we post about it. But what if you stopped? What if you let everyone think you're average and secretly built the kind of life they'll never afford because they can't stop performing? That's what invisible wealth is. It's not just money. It's the quiet confidence that you don't need anyone's permission to be content. Favorite quote: "The most valuable financial asset is not needing to impress anyone." Key takeaway: the loudest wealth is usually the most fragile. Real freedom starts the moment you no longer care who's watching. The math of happiness when rich meets real. America's economy is booming on paper again. Stocks climbing, unemployment low, wages slightly up, and yet people feel more miserable than ever. Depression rates are at record highs. Anti-anxiety prescriptions are flooding pharmacies, and a recent survey from the American Psychological Association says nearly 70% of adults feel financially trapped. We're richer than we've ever been, but somehow less happy than we've ever felt. That's not a paradox. That's proof that we've mistaken money for meaning. Morgan Housel warns about this quiet disease of affluence, the idea that wealth can fill the holes we refuse to face. He points out that money, at best, amplifies who you already are. If you're insecure, more money makes you more insecure. If you're generous, more money makes you more generous. The problem is never the dollar, it's the dependency. We tell ourselves, once I make enough, I'll finally relax. But enough keeps moving like a mirage in the desert. People today chase happiness like it's a subscription plan. We try to purchase joy the way we purchase Wi-Fi. Fast, automatic, always available. But the math doesn't add up. Because happiness isn't something you buy, it's something you notice. Housel reminds us that wealth and happiness are two completely different equations. Wealth is a function of accumulation. Happiness is a function of subtraction. One adds, the other removes. You can have a fortune in the bank and still feel bankrupt inside if your life is cluttered with noise, pressure, and comparison. Take a look around. How many people are working 80-hour weeks to afford luxuries they never have time to enjoy? We keep pretending burnout is ambition. We've made exhaustion a flex. The economy might reward productivity, but life rewards peace, and most people are broke in peace. Housel argues that wealth is what you don't see. Savings, freedom, time, while richness is the illusion we sell to each other. Rich is the car. Wealth is not needing to drive anywhere. Rich is the designer watch. Wealth is not caring what time it is. We've built an entire culture that celebrates rich people while ignoring wealthy ones. The rich get applause, the wealthy get silence, and the silence is the point. You know who's actually winning? The person whose lifestyle looks boring from the outside but feels peaceful on the inside. The one who skips networking events to have dinner with their family. The one who takes walks instead of taking loans. The one who stopped trying to turn happiness into a project. Housel's entire philosophy could be summarized in one truth. Happiness is not the reward for success. It's the precondition. And yet, modern life keeps dangling the opposite narrative. The media glorifies the grind. Social media glorifies the highlight reel. Influencers sell you freedom with affiliate codes. But the people who have actually tasted real happiness aren't shouting about it online. They're too busy living it. The cruel trick of our generation is that we confuse excitement with joy. Excitement is a spike. Joy is a foundation. Excitement burns you out. Joy sustains you. That's why so many people are exhausted. They're chasing the wrong high. They think happiness is about adding more zeros when it's actually about deleting the things that steal your peace. Right now, while the Fed celebrates resilient spending, Americans are quietly drowning in record credit card debt. People are trying to buy serenity from the same system that sold them anxiety. We don't need more things. We need more nothing. Space, stillness, time. The luxury we can't post about because it doesn't photograph well. The people who understand this, the ones who've stopped trying to impress, who've stopped needing to prove, they've discovered the math of happiness. The equation goes like this: less noise, more gratitude, less chasing, more choosing. You can't out-earn emptiness, but you can spend your life into meaning if you learn the difference between living well and looking rich. Favorite quote: money's greatest intrinsic value, and this can't be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time. Key takeaway: real happiness isn't about more, it's about enough. The people who feel richest aren't those who collect things, but those who collect calm. Status is expensive, but joy is free. It's 2025, and everyone's broke in a different way. Some are financially broke, others emotionally bankrupt, and most are spiritually overdrawn. The economy's stabilizing, they say. Inflation cooled, unemployment steady, but behind that optimistic data, people are quietly crumbling under the pressure to look like they're doing fine. That's the new poverty, pretending you're rich just to stay relevant. The latest surveys say Americans are spending more than ever on status goods. Not because they need them, but because they need to matter. Luxury sales are up 18%, while personal savings are down to historic lows. Translation: we're financing our self-worth on credit. We'd rather owe the bank than owe ourselves honesty. And this is exactly what Morgan Housel was warning about. He wrote that most people don't spend money for utility, they spend it for status. The problem? Status is a game with no finish line. Once you start, you can't stop because it doesn't reward peace, it rewards envy. It's not about who you are, it's about who you can outshine. Everywhere you look, people are trading simplicity for significance. a $1,200 phone that dies in 2 years, a $90,000 SUV that never leaves the suburbs, a luxury handbag that costs more than the person carrying it earns in a week, and yet every purchase comes with the same quiet question: do you see me now? We've built a culture where worth is measured by attention, not integrity. You're not successful until people notice you're successful, but that's not success, that's marketing. Here's the cruel joke: the people you're trying to impress aren't even looking. They're too busy trying to impress you. Everyone's performing for an audience that doesn't exist. And if you don't see that, congratulations, you're the show. Housel argues that the happiest people are the ones who stopped keeping score. They stopped competing with the invisible crowd and started playing their own game. But that kind of detachment terrifies most people because it means admitting you've been playing for the wrong prize. It means realizing that your dream life was probably someone else's commercial. We've turned risk into regret because we keep investing in the wrong assets. Approval, comparison, performance. Risk isn't losing money, it's losing yourself in the pursuit of validation. It's wasting years proving something no one will remember. And here's the thing, life's not fair. Someone will always have more. A bigger house, a better job, a luckier break. But the more you chase status, the more fragile your joy becomes. One market dip, one failed project, one person doing slightly better than you, and your entire identity collapses. You can't build happiness on a leaderboard. We've mistaken anxiety for ambition. We say, I'm grinding, when what we really mean is, I'm terrified of being average. But here's the truth. Average isn't failure, it's reality. The failure is pretending you're above it while destroying your peace to maintain the illusion. Every generation has its addiction. Ours isn't alcohol or cigarettes, it's admiration. But admiration doesn't come cheap. It costs your sanity first, your savings second. Housel reminds us that the utility of money is freedom, not fashion. The more you spend to prove you're free, the more enslaved you become. There's a reason status is expensive, because it charges you in ways you don't see until it's too late. The real flex in 2025? Not caring. Turning down things that don't serve you. Choosing quiet over clout. Refusing to play games where the prize is temporary and the cost is permanent. Because joy, real joy, doesn't need witnesses. So maybe it's time to stop trying to win and start trying to feel. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers what you wore or what car you drove. They remember how peaceful you seemed while everyone else was panicking. That's the kind of wealth money can't fake. Favorite quote: spending to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less of it. Key takeaway: status is rented and the rent is due every day. Joy is owned outright and it never needs an audience. The mirror effect: what you see is what you spend. America's economy is getting louder, not healthier, just louder. Everyone's showing off again, trying to prove they're thriving in a world that feels like it's barely holding itself together. The markets are up, social media is manic, and envy is on sale everywhere you look. And that's the punchline of the modern economy. It's not driven by need anymore, it's driven by comparison. People don't buy because they need, they buy because someone else did first. Morgan Housel explains that our financial lives are mirrors. What you spend on isn't a reflection of logic, it's a reflection of envy. Every dollar you drop is a confession of who you wish you were. And that's not just poetic, it's economically disastrous. Because envy doesn't stop at satisfaction, it escalates until your peace of mind is maxed out like your credit card. Look at what's happening right now. Consumer debt just passed 1.5 trillion, not because people are starving, but because they're starving for validation. The average American isn't competing with poverty, they're competing with their neighbor's vacation photos. Every purchase is a performance, every post is a press release, and somehow, despite record spending, nobody feels rich. because you can't feel wealthy while living inside someone else's highlight reel. Housel makes the uncomfortable point that comparison doesn't just make you miserable, it makes you dependent. When your sense of worth is tied to how others live, you lose the independence that real wealth was supposed to buy you. What's the point of making more money if it only traps you deeper in the game of pretending? He says wealth without independence is just a unique form of poverty. You can have millions in the bank and still be emotionally bankrupt if you're still chasing someone else's version of success. And yet, we glorify this form of slavery. We call it motivation, grind culture, aspiration. It's not. It's insecurity in designer packaging. This is the dark side of visibility. The more we see, the less satisfied we become. It's psychological inflation. Every time someone flexes, your standard of enough rises. And if you think you're immune, check your screen time. The algorithm doesn't care about your happiness. It only cares about your attention. It sells you the illusion of control while quietly controlling you. We've made envy normal, so normal that it's practically patriotic. Companies know it too. They don't sell products anymore. They sell status relief. That's why ads don't say, buy this watch, it's high quality. They say, buy this watch, and you'll finally be the kind of person who deserves to be seen. The moment you believe them, you're owned. You want to know the worst part? Envy's contagious, but satisfaction isn't. Nobody posts contentment. Nobody flexes stability. So the entire system keeps rewarding the loudest insecurity. And it works because humans are mimics. We don't just copy what people have, we copy what they crave. Housel's genius is how he exposes this with brutal simplicity. Your real wealth is how little you care about what others think. Independence is the only status symbol that doesn't depreciate. The richest people aren't the ones winning the game. They're the ones who walked away from the table, but we're scared to leave because comparison gives us structure. It tells us who we're better than. Without it, we'd have to face ourselves, and that's terrifying. It's easier to chase than to reflect, easier to scroll than to feel, easier to spend than to think. What would happen if you stopped playing? If you stopped comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's premiere? The world wouldn't end. The noise would. You'd realize most people aren't ahead of you. They're just louder about their panic. And maybe that's what freedom really is. Not buying silence, but earning it. The kind of quiet that comes from no longer needing to compete. Because envy may drive the economy, but it destroys the soul. Favorite quote, wealth is what you don't see. Key takeaway, comparison is a debt you pay with your peace. Real wealth isn't about having more, it's about needing less to feel whole. The social debt trap, quiet lives, loud lessons. The headlines right now read like a warning label for modern life. Household debt in the US just hit $18.9 trillion, the highest in history. Credit card balances are climbing faster than wages, and Americans are now paying record interest just to maintain the illusion of stability. But the most dangerous kind of debt isn't financial, it's social. It's the kind that doesn't show up on your credit score, but still owns your life. The debt of approval. That's what Morgan Housel was really talking about when he wrote about quiet compounding and social pressure. How the invisible cost of trying to keep up eventually drown you. We owe everyone everything. Attention, validation, appearances. We're drowning in borrowed identities, repaying people for expectations we never agreed to. Think about how most people live today. We don't buy cars because we need to get places. We buy them because we need to be seen getting there. We don't post because we have something to say. We post because silence feels like obscurity. We don't spend to enjoy life. We spend to prove we're doing better than last week. Every decision is a social transaction, a constant bartering for belonging. The crazy part, it works until it doesn't. For a while, you feel powerful. Then one day, the payments start showing up in your head. Anxiety, exhaustion, the constant feeling that you're falling behind, even when you're not sure who you're racing. That's the interest rate on the social debt we've all taken out. Housel's insight is brutal but liberating. Real wealth isn't about money, it's about quiet control. The compounding that matters most isn't in your bank account, it's in your behavior. Every time you resist the urge to compete, compare, or prove, you earn interest in peace, and peace compounds faster than envy ever will. The loudest people in the room, the ones flashing cars, vacations, designer anything, they're usually the most indebted. They've borrowed their confidence from applause, and applause has terrible repayment terms. But the people who live quietly, the ones whose names you don't hear until decades later, they're the ones compounding for real. They're building wealth, relationships, and reputations that don't need to scream to matter. Look at what's happening right now. Influencers going bankrupt while selling luxury lifestyles. Millionaires losing sleep because their status slipped a notch online. It's tragic comedy. We've confused visibility with value, and it's bankrupting us emotionally. The real winners aren't playing anymore. They've realized the system is rigged because it runs on insecurity. You can't win a game designed to keep you anxious. Housel's quiet compounding is rebellion disguised as patience. Every time you choose contentment over comparison, you break the algorithm. You stop being profitable to the world that feeds on your fear of falling behind. Maybe that's what we need to learn. Debt doesn't just come from the bank, it comes from expectations. And most of us are making minimum payments on other people's opinions. So, stop borrowing confidence from strangers. Stop financing your identity with validation. Build something slower, quieter, realer, because the only wealth that lasts is the kind that doesn't need to shout. Favorite quote, "The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today." Key takeaway, debt isn't just money you owe, it's attention you spend. True wealth compounds quietly. Every time you stop trying to prove anything to anyone. Identity inflation, who you are versus what you own. It's November 2025, and America's in an identity crisis. Not political, not cultural, but financial. People no longer buy things because they need them. They buy them because they need to be someone. The economy isn't built on demand anymore. It's built on insecurity. Every purchase, every post, every swipe of a card is a vote for the kind of person we want to be seen as, not the kind we actually are. Morgan Housel gets this better than anyone. He writes that our relationship with money is never rational. It's emotional theater. We don't spend to solve problems. We spend to tell stories. Your sneakers aren't shoes. They're proof you're up to date. Your Tesla isn't transportation, it's a manifesto on wheels. You're not eating avocado toast, you're curating an identity that says, I'm thriving. But underneath it all, most people are exhausted, terrified, and broke, and pretending not to be. That's the inflation no one talks about. Identity inflation. Every year, it costs more to feel like somebody. What used to be enough, a house, a car, a stable job, now barely registers. Everyone's upgrading their image while downgrading their peace. The new American dream isn't freedom, it's being admired. But here's where it gets dark. The more your identity depends on what you own, the less control you actually have over it. Because once your sense of self lives in things, it can be repossessed. Lose the job, the house, the car, and suddenly you're not just broke, you're nobody. That's not financial instability, that's existential risk. Housel warns that money is a mirror. It doesn't create your character, it exposes it. And when people get rich fast, they don't change. They just turn up the volume on who they already were. If you're generous, you'll give more. If you're reckless, you'll blow more. If you're insecure, you'll buy louder. Money doesn't fix your flaws, it funds them. And right now, America is funding its anxiety. Every algorithm we use is built to remind us we're not enough. Social media has become a store that never closes, filled with lifestyles you can't afford and people who look happier than they are. And the more you scroll, the less you like your life. Companies have learned how to weaponize identity, how to sell you your own reflection and make you pay for it monthly. The scary thing is how early this conditioning starts. Kids are growing up thinking personality is something you can purchase. 13-year-olds are asking for iPhones, not because they need them, but because being disconnected means being invisible. Adults aren't any better. We chase trends like they're meaning itself. A new hobby, a new outfit, a new side hustle to make us look interesting. But underneath all that motion is the same stillness, fear of being ordinary. Housel will tell you that the richest person is the one who can afford to be themselves. Independence is the highest dividend. It's not about quitting your job or living in the woods. It's about owning your choices without apology. It's about not needing to prove, to post, to perform. But that kind of freedom is rare because it doesn't pay well. Not to the people selling you things. So we keep playing along, convincing ourselves we're building a brand when we're really just leasing one. The modern identity is a subscription service. You stop paying and it vanishes. Here's a truth no one likes to hear. The version of you that doesn't need to show off would terrify the version of you that does, because that version can't be manipulated. It can't be sold to. It can't be shamed into wanting. And that's exactly why real independence is so dangerous. It threatens the entire economy of ego. The people who've truly made it are the ones who've stopped auditioning for a role they already own. They've realized that money's greatest use isn't to upgrade your life, it's to simplify it. Because eventually, every purchase stops being about what you have and starts being about what it's hiding. So maybe the goal isn't to buy more, but to need less. Maybe the most radical thing you can do in 2025 is stop trying to prove you're winning and start trying to remember who you were before the world told you to monetize it. Favorite quote: money's greatest value is that it gives you control over your time and therefore over your identity. Key takeaway: every dollar you spend is a reflection of who you think you are. The real luxury is being comfortable enough not to perform for anyone, including yourself. Generational currencies: teaching money without losing meaning. In 2025, kids are learning about crypto before they learn about compound interest. Parents are posting money hacks on TikTok while drowning in credit card debt, and entire families are competing on who can look the most financially stable online, even as household savings rates hit their lowest since the 2008 crash. America's not just broke, it's teaching broke as a lifestyle. Morgan Housel doesn't just talk about money, he talks about the emotional inheritance we pass down with it. The uncomfortable truth is that your kids are absorbing every unspoken belief you have about money. If you treat it like oxygen, something you constantly need more of, they'll grow up gasping too. But if you treat it like a tool, something to be used with intention, they'll build instead of chase. Here's the problem: most people don't realize their financial habits are a form of parenting. Every time you panic about bills, every time you brag about a purchase, every time you say, "We can't afford that," instead of "that's not worth it," you're teaching your children what's valuable. You're teaching them whether money is a source of power or peace. Housel argues that the greatest inheritance isn't money, it's mindset. A kid who learns how to think about money will outperform a kid who just inherits it. But that's not how most parents operate. We obsess over leaving behind financial assets while neglecting the behavioral ones. We'd rather fund college accounts than model emotional control. We build generational wealth while handing down generational anxiety. The modern family treats money like a spreadsheet problem, but it's really a psychology problem. We forget that people don't spend logically. They spend emotionally to feel safe, seen, or superior. When kids watch adults treat financial stress like a personality trait, they learn that self-worth comes with a price tag. It's why so many adults today are financially literate but emotionally bankrupt. They can calculate ROI, but can't sit with discomfort. They can budget for a mortgage, but not for contentment. They inherited habits, not wisdom. And here's where it gets ugly. Parents often project their own insecurities onto their kids' ambitions. The father who grew up poor demands his child become a doctor, not out of love, but fear. The mother who never felt successful enough pushes her daughter toward prestige instead of peace. Then those kids grow up, earn the money, and repeat the cycle, mistaking performance for purpose. Meanwhile, America's financial landscape is making this worse. The cost of living is skyrocketing. Gen Z is entering adulthood with record debt and zero trust in the system. Parents are working 2 jobs and still can't afford daycare. The next generation isn't lazy, they're exhausted before they even start. And when you mix that exhaustion with financial fear, you create a culture of desperation where value is measured by hustle and self-worth is outsourced to likes. Housel's lesson here is brutal but necessary. If you can't talk about money with emotional honesty, you're not teaching, you're transferring dysfunction. Money isn't just numbers, it's narrative. And if you don't rewrite yours, your kids will inherit the rough draft. He suggests that true financial wisdom is teaching children what enough looks like, not in a moral way, but in a mathematical one. Enough isn't complacency, it's clarity. It's the point where more no longer equals better, but you can't teach that if you've never experienced it yourself. Maybe that's the generational challenge we face, not building wealth, but building meaning around it. Not leaving behind numbers in a will, but principles in a conversation. Because at the end of the day, your kids won't remember how much money you left them. They'll remember how your relationship with money made them feel, anxious, free, or ashamed. And if you're not careful, your silence becomes their story. Favorite quote: your kids will learn more from how you react to a $10 mistake than how you celebrate a $10,000 win. Key takeaway: the legacy you leave isn't your net worth, it's your money behavior. Teach your children not just how to earn, but how to live without letting money define them. The fine print of desire, how pleasure becomes pressure. Luxury handbags are selling out faster than groceries, yet 60% of Americans say they couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense. Inflation is cooling, but desire isn't. People are maxing out credit cards to feel rich while quietly drowning in 20% interest rates. Welcome to the modern paradox. We're broke, but we want to look expensive. Morgan Housel's take on this is ruthless. Desire has become a liability. He writes that the finer things, the cars, watches, vacations, used to be rewards. Now they're requirements. Luxury used to whisper. Today it screams from every Instagram post and influencer ad. We don't even want the thing itself anymore. We want the feeling that we think comes with it. But feelings bought with money expire faster than dopamine hits. The problem isn't wanting nice things. It's believing that comfort equals happiness. Housel argues that the true danger of wealth isn't greed, it's normalization. Once something good becomes normal, it stops feeling good. You buy the dream car and it's thrilling for 3 months. Then your neighbor gets the newer model and suddenly yours feels old. Your achievement just became your baseline and your baseline became your burden. That's how pleasure becomes pressure, when your lifestyle upgrades faster than your gratitude. We think we're chasing joy, but we're really just trying to outrun boredom. Every new purchase creates a smaller high and a larger expectation, and the economy feeds this addiction perfectly. Luxury brands now market exclusivity through scarcity, drop culture, limited editions, and even fake waiting lists. It's not about the product anymore. It's about the illusion of being above the ordinary. But here's the kicker. The richer a society becomes, the less its luxuries satisfy. When everyone has air conditioning, it's not luxurious. It's just Tuesday. When everyone's phone costs $1,000, it's not status. It's standard. We keep upgrading because we mistake convenience for meaning and consumption for identity. In one of the book's most piercing observations, Housel reminds us that greed isn't about wanting more. It's about never feeling like you have enough. The cycle is psychological, not financial. We tell ourselves that the next milestone will bring peace, the promotion, the new house, the nicer watch, but the goalpost always moves. Desire is designed to be endless, and that endless loop costs us more than money. It costs peace, patience, and self-respect, because the more we chase better, the less we appreciate enough. It's like drinking salt water. The thirst never ends. Take a look at recent headlines. Luxury sales are soaring while middle-class savings are shrinking. It's not a coincidence. The system thrives on our inability to sit still, to be content. The world doesn't need us satisfied. It needs us scrolling, spending, and comparing. The moment we stop, someone loses profit, but there's a way out. It's radical, almost rebellious in today's culture. Redefine wealth as contentment. Luxury should be occasional, not constant. Joy should come from the freedom to say no, not the pressure to say yes. The irony is that restraint has become the ultimate status symbol because it means you own your desires instead of being owned by them. And speaking of ownership, remember when priceless jewels were stolen from the Louvre? Security was flawless, yet the thieves still found a way in because that's what greed does. It finds cracks in even the most guarded systems. The heist wasn't just a crime, it was a metaphor. When desire overrules discipline, even priceless things lose their safety. That's the point Housel drives home. The finer things lose their shine when they become the standard. Luxury should stay special because when it becomes normal, it becomes meaningless. Favorite quote: "You'll never be happier with more until you're grateful for enough." Key takeaway: true luxury isn't what you can afford, it's what you can live without. The richest person in the room isn't the one wearing gold, it's the one who doesn't need it. Grace and gratitude. The luckier you are, the kinder you should be. America is in a strange place. Billionaires are pledging billions to charity, while everyday Americans tip less and argue more. Reports show that charitable giving in the US has dropped to its lowest rate in decades, even as the wealth gap hits record highs. The richer we've become, the less generous we seem to be. That's not an accident, it's a mirror. Prosperity without perspective breeds arrogance, not abundance. Morgan Housel's message here slices deep. Money doesn't change who you are, it just amplifies it. If you're kind when you're broke, you'll probably be kinder when you're rich. But if you're selfish, money just gives you a louder microphone. Gratitude and grace aren't financial outcomes, they're emotional disciplines. The way you spend, give, and treat others with your wealth is the truest reflection of your character, not your balance sheet. He argues that the ultimate luxury isn't wealth, it's generosity. But generosity has become rare because we've confused being rich with being superior. Society rewards loud success and ignores quiet compassion. We idolize the billionaire who built himself up more than the nurse who gives without applause. That's how you end up in a culture that glorifies accumulation and treats giving as a marketing tactic. There's a line Housel writes that hits like a punch to the ego. The luckier you are, the nicer you should be. It's not moral advice, it's math. Luck compounds the same way money does. You didn't choose where you were born, who taught you, or what opportunities came your way. But what you do with that luck, that's entirely on you. Grace is not weakness, it's responsibility paid forward. Look at the numbers. The average American household spends more on streaming subscriptions than on charity each month. That's not because people are bad, it's because gratitude doesn't trend. We live in an algorithmic world where outrage gets clicks and kindness gets ignored. The economy rewards noise, not nuance. But here's the paradox. The quieter you live, the richer you feel. Housel's take on misery is equally brutal. People who spend selfishly are often the least satisfied. They try to fill emotional holes with material upgrades. They donate only when it's convenient, buy only to impress, and give only to be seen. But joy isn't found in being admired, it's found in being useful. Gratitude, he says, is the only investment that guarantees compound joy. In a way, he's reminding us that financial success without emotional maturity is just dressed up emptiness. You can build the biggest house and still feel small inside it. You can make millions and still be bankrupt in meaning. The richest lives aren't measured by digits, but by depth. How many people breathe easier because you existed? The news cycle proves it daily. Wealth without empathy collapses fast. From corporate greed scandals to tone-deaf CEOs blaming market conditions while cutting thousands of jobs, the moral math is broken. Yet, every now and then, you see someone with real wealth who gives without fanfare, and it restores a bit of faith. Because grace doesn't announce itself, it acts. In the end, Housel's insight is simple, but devastatingly honest. Money magnifies your internal world. If you're bitter, you'll weaponize it. If you're grateful, you'll multiply goodness with it. The question isn't how much you have, it's what version of yourself your money is funding. Favorite quote: the luckier you are, the nicer you should be. Not because it looks good, but because it's true. Key takeaway: real wealth isn't what you keep, it's what you release. Gratitude turns money into meaning, and grace turns success into significance. Conclusion. You've walked through 11 pillars of how money really works. The hidden thirst for enough, the battlefield of attention, the secret value of what you don't show, the equation of joy versus dollars, the cost of status, the mirror of envy, the trap of social debt, the inflation of identity, what you leave for the next generation, the danger of luxury becoming liability, and the final rebellion of generosity. Every one of those ideas isn't a separate lesson. They're threads in one tapestry, the story of how money doesn't set you free. It reveals who you already are. In a world screaming that more money, more stuff, and more visibility equals success, you now know the truth. Freedom is the ability to stop buying what you don't need, so you can start living what you were meant for. Because if you don't decide what your money stands for, someone else will decide for you. The economy won't care about your values. It will monetize your doubts. You're either using money or you're being used by it. So here's what you do next. You take the book, you buy it, and you read it like you're rescuing yourself from the life you were told you wanted. You don't just collect quotes. You question everything you've been chasing. You don't just build wealth. You ask what it's buying you. You don't just spend. You decide what you'll never pay for again, because the only thing worse than having money is living as if you do, while you're rich in things and bankrupt in peace. The real victory? Not having to show it, not needing approval, not fearing scarcity, not being beholden to the applause. It's choosing one fewer credit card payment, one less flashy car, one more morning where you wake up and feel like you're living, not performing. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Your finances are less about wealth than about worth. The most radical investment you'll ever make isn't in stocks or houses. It's in understanding why you spend. Because the only thing that outlasts the balance sheet is the person you became while managing it. Go buy the book, read it, then decide what money means for you, not for the algorithm, not for your peers, not for the photo op. Own your story. Spend like a person who isn't trying to prove anything. Live like someone who's already seen enough to know what's worth keeping. And when the economy screams louder, you'll know how to speak quieter and stronger. Thanks for watching. If you found value here, subscribe, share it with someone who thinks hype equals happiness, and let's redefine wealth together. Until next time, live bold, spend wise, and make your money mean something.